Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Once again, it's time for my client Demi's vlog. And now that he's done with his thesis, we have gone over to doing a little bit of heavy lifting again. Now keep in mind that the overwhelming majority of Demi's training is hypertrophy work. His goals are primarily physique right now, but we do care a little bit about his strength. So we are doing training maxes, and this is something I've talked about for years at this point. Something I am comfortable implementing with a large number of my clients at this point, to where I watch their bar speeds and I program training maxes for them at the start of a workout, and then we just do hypertrophy work after. And keeping in mind, the idea here is that we are looking at moderately challenging singles, okay? They should not be all-out grinders. They should be training maxes. In other words, you should be able to hit 2 or 3 reps with that weight if you go 100%. Okay? And we use that to train ourselves to be able to max later, because it actually has very good carryover to when you do a true max. But it doesn't create the same fatigue. It doesn't beat us up the same. And in my opinion, and there is some scientific research on this, it can help attenuate upper threshold motor units quicker on your hypertrophy work. And it can actually help increase performance slightly. And there have been at least a couple of studies that have determined that in other words, if you do a moderately heavy single, not a true max, but like a training max, at around 90%, and then shortly after you start doing your like 10 and 12 rep sets, your performance will be slightly higher. In other words, they found that people are just a small few percentile stronger. Well, this is great for efficiency. So in a lot of ways, it counts as a warm-up. And you'll have people who are like, well, I do whatever to get warmed up, to potentiate, training, and to potentiate muscle and nervous system activation. Well, a heavy single is a great way to do that. But it's also, in this case, specific to if you do want to have certain lifts you care about being strong on later, it allows us to do this. So what does the rest of his work look like? All right, we do a lot of bench pressing. We do a lot of incline benching. So I'm big on the incline. Now, some of my lifters actually do overhead pressing in place of incline, but that is for people who care specifically about overhead strength, right? They're either overhead athletes that care about their max overhead press, or they just have an interest in that movement pattern for some reason. Whereas in my people who are purely more physique oriented, I'm going to lean more in the direction of an incline bench. Okay, but like I personally feel the incline brings more to the table there. And I'm not saying everyone has to do those angles, but if we're going to look at 2 pressing angles, I do like that. And the same thing with the pulling. Notice he does, a band assisted pull up, and then we do rows. Okay. This combination works extremely well for that. It works both a vertical and a horizontal pull. Okay, so that we work the back from 2 different angles. Then, of course, he does plenty of arm work. And I don't have him doing a lot of delt work right now. We had a phase where we did a lot of it, but right now, I feel like for him, the incline and the rowing is enough to do most of his shoulders, and I want to really keep focusing on his arms as far as upper body goes. He's a taller lifter with longer arms, which I can relate to. We struggled a lot with originally lat and tricep development and getting his bench up. So we are continuing to kind of really focus on those things because they bring a lot to the table for him. And the lat work has helped him get wider in the shoulders anyways. So it's a great deal of our training is geared towards that specifically. So as you guys notice, we finish up his upper body workouts with arm supersets. So we do tricep work and bicep work in a superset. And I really like those antagonistic supersets. All right, this is the first time he's done any real squatting in months. So we're going kind of easy, and he's kind of like laughing. He's like, oh, that felt somewhat heavy. Because keep in mind, he's done a 4-plate squat with actually a little bit heavier. So again, just a good training max, getting back in the feel of a low bar squat. And then, of course, we go right into machine work. So we use belt squats very heavily for him. He happens to own a belt squat. He's comfortable with it, so we make heavy use of it as a primary leg builder. So afterwards, we tend to do belt squats. We do glute ham raises to really work his hamstrings. We do a lot of reverse hypers. And for Demi, this is mostly what we do for his lower body stuff. We don't actually have a really high variety we very much just athlete his lower body. So it's, a squat pattern movement and a lot of posterior chain. So in this case, it's, glute ham raises. We do reverse hyperextensions. And then we do hanging leg raises for abs, which I'm a big fan of. I feel like the hanging leg raise is actually a fantastic squat accessory. Even though it's a great ab exercise in and of itself, I feel like it lends itself very well to building a big squat, just because, again, we're training the hip flexors concurrently with the abdominals. In his case, he still does them with a bent knee. He's not strong enough to do, like a toe to bar, like you'll see Michelle and some of the other lifters doing. But keep in mind, he's a heavy body weight, big frame guy, so his legs weigh a lot, and he has really long legs. So it's going to take us time to build up to that. And then, of course, we finish up with the reverse hyperextensions. And then you guys will see on the other 2 days, the other upper body day is pretty much a replica of this one. And on the lower body days, you guys will notice he does a deadlift for a training max instead of a squat. And that is a setup I like for a lot of my lifters. If we care a little bit about a powerlifting base, I like training maxes to where we'll do a squat one day, a deadlift the other, and then both upper body days we'll do a training max on the bench. Although some of my lifters, I'll do an overhead press or an incline there, particularly if they're more of an overhead-oriented athlete, right? So I'm just throwing a little bit of that footage in, and you guys will see what I do for the other stuff, and you'll see his deadlift training max. So I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.